Hey, how you doing? I decided to create this video based on a conversation I had with a coach this morning that I'm working with remotely. And I went through this document with him as an example of the type of work I used to do when I was working on, we'll call it the junior tour with some players. And he highlighted that he couldn't believe how much detail had gone into it. So this was just the way I used to work because I am of a geeky nature and like detail, and I thought it might be worth running it by you to give you an idea of the way my mind thought when I was working with players playing pretty decent level. So first of all, to give you a bit of a background, this girl Joanna, I worked with her for I think about eight years or so. Was British number one, top 10 in Europe, and played good ITF level. Went on to do a full scholarship at Tennessee. Ended up top 10 in the NCAA, etc. Good player, but most importantly, an amazing person. Salt of the earth, really lovely, genuine, kind person, and was a privilege to work with her. And this was a grade 1 Tennis Europe event in Livorno, as you can see in the date, 10 years ago, which is crazy. So I will run you through the document. So the first thing to say is I prefer to have a big picture overview first and then go into the detail as we go along. These words, this player's pre-match thoughts, were literally her words. By this point, we probably spent about 3 years really trying to get Joanna to understand that she needed to go on with goals, that she needed to be able to evaluate after the match, and of course during the match. So these are literally her own words. She would have written them down in her little journal that she had, and obviously I put them onto this. So what she's written down maybe is not of massive interest, but if we highlight a couple of things, so you've got high first serve percentage, so thinking more about like a tactical goal in that sense, but then process goal with the legs, really drive up using her legs. The tournament was on clay, so a little bit more spin than she would naturally play, and then using her rally ball to get her opponent off the court, trying to get her opponent to move as much as she could on that clay court. We'd scouted the opponent and seen that when she was in extreme defence, she just played with a high moon ball, as most people do, maybe on a clay court when they're a junior. So we worked on drive volley, trying to take the ball out of the air, and second serve return. So a mixture of tactical, technical work that she's going to be thinking about when she's on the court. These are the overview stats. Again, we don't have to go into massive detail, but it was the second round of a 64 draw. She lost 4 and 4, total points played, etc. But down here, like I was doing percentage of points won when over 6-shot rally, you can see it drops to 21%. Percentage of points won within 4 shots, 52%. And for her, that was normally higher because she was about 6'1", had a very dominant, a very heavy ball first strike kind of game. So that was a bit lower. Percentage of points won when returning first serve, 53%, which is not bad. But percentage of points won, 24% on second serve, which was based on her goals at the start of the match, much lower than we would have liked. The thing that stood out was that at that time in Joanna's development, there were times in matches where she would go on runs of points, whether it meant winning them or runs of points where she's losing them. So from my point of view, this had been a bit of an alarm bell in terms of her ability to sense what was going on in the moment, because after the matches she wasn't really fully aware of these big runs in either direction, which was a bit of a concern purely for the future. She's 14 at this point, so it's not a massive thing when you're a kid, but when you're getting older you need to be able to change momentum and also keep it when you've got it. So I charted that, and you can see some stats there in terms of points won in a row. At one point she won 7 points in a row, 5 points once, 3 points in a row twice, 2.7 times. but then equally she lost 7 points in a row once, 5 points once, 4 points 5 times, 3 points 3 times. And if you're thinking it was a 6-4, 6-4, just below 50% points won, even if she could have stopped those runs a couple of times, it could have changed the match. So that was something that we've been working on. And then point ending shots, 15 on forehand, 19 on backhand when she won. Her backhand was absolute class, but her forehand still was big, so you would hope that that forehand would be a little bit more dominant. And you can see the 38 backhands missed, which was very unusual for her. Players' thoughts after the match. I was aware that she'd been 4-2 up, executing pre-match goals well, but this is quite interesting. She started to she felt that as much as she was winning, she felt like she had to do more to consolidate the lead, which is quite an insightful thing for her to admit. So therefore she started trying to hit a little bit too hard. She didn't really have a spinny game anyway, so that meant that she was taping a lot of balls, hitting the top of the tape. She stopped moving the ball wide. It's crazy that I can remember this from 10 years ago, but I spent so much time with her that I could remember a lot of details about the time we spent together. So I can remember it clear as day. I can even picture the court. She started trying to hit through the court rather than actually using the width of the court. And the opponent was then able to counter using her speed, and she was pretty good at that. The girl played quite a lot of spin. She was an Italian girl playing a lot of spin on the forehand, and Joanna was trying too hard and missed timing and stuff like that. She said, I learned a hard lesson. I need to be able to address problems sooner in matches, which is, for me, again, as a coach responsible for her development, that is exactly what I'm looking for. I don't care if she won or lost. Of course, I would prefer if she won, but it's that kind of moment that I'm looking for. I want her to have these moments consistently. Then, in terms of feeding back, I did tactical, technical, physical, mental. That's the way my brain works again. And I take things from the match court in terms of the match information, link it to technical, link it to physical, and overwrap it with the mental. It's not saying that any one of these things is more important or less important. It's just how my mind works. The scatter diagram from the match showed that the majority of the serves out wide with a variation of going T. The ratios on the deuce and the ad are different. Let's not worry about that too much. There's some information there. If you want to pause it and have a look at it, you can do that. But you can see return of serve in terms of the actual returning itself, not too bad in terms of the stats. But the key statistic, we spoke about it already, was that only 24% won on second serve. 38 backhands missed, and 33 of them were from 4-2 up. So up until that 4-2 in the first set, missed 5 backhands, dominating the game pretty well. The technical observations relating to the technical. So again, I've got the tactical. I then want to hook it into the technical. As the match went on, the legs started to seize up a little bit, stopped getting the air time that we've been working on. So again, that's, you could say that's a physical thing or a mental thing, feeling a little bit more anxious. Return, the opponent had a good kick serve, that Italian kind of kicky serve, playing on clay all the time, and Joanna was letting the ball play her. Contact point was too high up rather than taking it early and moving in. Rally situation would often let the ball jump up again. It was kind of just a little bit anxious and trying too hard. So instead of really spotting the contact point in terms of where in the flight, she was tending to let the ball play her a little bit. Physical relating to technical, because Joanna was so tall and she looked strong, but that can be in terms of she had a strong build. But at 14, she still was very much growing and getting used to her frame. So the athletic position, the footwork around the ball was poor. It's very, at this time, Joanna will back me up, very unusual for me to be so critical on her reports, because I was trying to be extremely positive with her. So for me to write poor, it meant it was poor. And then mental, I put down here, player did learn a hard lesson in this match regarding letting the match slip by without changing the play. There was a look of what is happening to me, kind of like the metaphorical baby looking for help, versus what can I make happen for me. And again, that was her thoughts. My thoughts, just to kind of wrap up the reports, were the match flipped at 4-2. Stated, that she felt that she tried that a little bit too hard. She didn't really know why when I spoke to her. The extremely hard lesson, because in her mind it was a big event, it was a grade 1 event. But I did genuinely feel that there were lots of good learning experiences coming from this tournament. What may be of interest to you is that I big time on maximising the tournament. Now, Joanna got to the final of the doubles tournament. In fact, actually, she had to pull out of the doubles final because we had to go on to Maya, or she had to go on to Maya, which is another grade 1 event. And what I did was I charted the opponent that she lost to. I charted her next match, and I was looking at it with Joanna, and Joanna was amazed at how obvious it was from sitting on the outside what she could have done differently to win that match. In the quarter-final, this girl Albano played Kromacheva, who went on to be number 1 in the world under 18s, was top 100 WTA, got to the quarter-finals of the doubles at the US Open this year. Very good, talented lefty, very good at mixing up the play. What Kromacheva did very, very well against Albano was that she just didn't give her the same ball twice. She was drop shotting, low slices, high spins, and it was a fairly comfortable win. And now, as much as that wasn't Joanna's game, she could see how even just that she can slice well, and she could have used that a little bit more. Joanna could actually play drop shots reasonably well, could have gone to net a little bit more, so there could have been a bit more variation. But the big thing for me was, when the player loses in a tournament, we don't just think, right, let's focus on doubles, or let's just bag the tournament. It's constantly trying to use that the rest of the tournament to increase the learning for the next one. I put this, now this is a report to the LTA because it was an official LTA trip, so that's why I've worded it as in I think the player, and this is for the LTA coaches. But my suggestion was that on LTA trips they could maybe make her scout a little bit more, because she was an intelligent girl and she learned quite quickly. She is an intelligent girl, in case you're watching this, Joanna. However, I feel that this time she's very much a social butterfly, and I mean that in the nicest possible sense. So she would be more inclined to go and watch matches that involved her friends, that involved 2 big named players in the draw, just to see what it was like, or quite often matches where she knew one of the players was a bit temperamental and nuts, and she knew there was going to be a bit of drama. So I was encouraging them to watch maybe potential future opponents, maybe players that she wouldn't play against in that tournament, but may potentially come up against in future tournaments, to try and get a bit more feel for who the players were at that level. And I think, of course, I can do it, and of course, as you can see, I love scouting, but I prefer it if the player sees it with their own eyes, they internalise it a lot better. And the kind of last main thing here is, at the moment, the player's hindsight is on awareness is on a hindsight level. And what I mean by that is, she would finish the match and then maybe reflect and go, okay, I get it now. And I was trying to make it more of a in the moment awareness, so that she was feeling what was going on in the match court, and she could actually adapt her play based on what the opponent was doing, or whether, I'm not performing quite so well today, so what do I do? Give myself a bit more margin, etc. And if longer term, you want their awareness to be what I am going to do, but you still need to be able to adapt it if it doesn't work. So as much as it was a tough lesson for her, because she was in her mind expecting to beat this Italian girl, there was lots of good learning that came from it. What was great was the very next week she moved on to Maya, which is another grade 1, and she made the singles final, and the report back from that from the LTA coaches was really impressed how well Joanna's scouting, how prepared she was for her matches in terms of pre-match goals, how well she evaluated, how much she stuck to her game plan and didn't deviate from it unless she needed to. So for me, that just kind of, as a coach, that is exactly what I want to hear about my players. Not just that they're winning, of course that's nice, but as coaches we are trying to make our players better thinkers and problem solvers on the court, and also looking constantly on how we can develop for the future and not just worried about doing well in under 14 events. So I hope that is of use to you. If you want to get in touch with me, I'd gladly email you this report over. I've asked Joanna permission and she's more than happy. Everything's pretty positive apart from one word, poor. But let me know if you want me to email this to you. Just write down below and we can exchange email addresses. Okay, take care. Bye bye.